Hello, everybody. Welcome to our monthly Q&A. We do have a live audience here that we always love to be in circle with, but this is our monthly chance to ask your questions, whether that's Reiki or spirituality, and have Colleen, myself, or Danny answer them, or somebody else that's here in the community. So I am here with Colleen this month.
Hello.
And we're here with Danny.
Hi, everybody.
And we are actually needing to pretty well go right into the invocation. Just a few announcements. October, we have Animal Reiki and Human Reiki. Colleen's teaching Human Reiki in October, and we also are teaching Animal Reiki. Both of those are online. Also, we have had quite a few people asking us about Next Step Reiki and when the registration goes up on that. We are working on putting up the wait list now, and the registration will open in November. So we are in the midst of changing the dates and all of those things on the website. You can go to reikilifestyle.com very soon to learn more and join the wait list if you would like. So we'll talk more about that as we come closer to it. But for those of you that have been wondering, we are in the midst of making the changes now, and then the registration will open up at the end of November, and we'll give dates and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and this is the Next Step Reiki training, and also Explore the 12 Heavens that starts in January 2026 and is for the whole year. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
All right, well, I think I'm ready. Let's go ahead. Close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Place your hands comfortably on your body. Open your heart and receive. Breathe deeply now. And as you breathe in the light and the power of love by every name it's called. And as you breathe in the light and the power of the divine mind. And the divine mind travels in on your breath, flows through your body, awakening and aligning with your human mind, your heart mind, your gut mind, and your earth mind. All aligning from above and below and within. Your whole body receives the divine mind and activates your higher thought and your higher consciousness in your whole body. The light of the divine heart travels in on your breath and awakens your divine heart, and your heart light shines. It shines in front of you and behind you on each side. Your heart light shines above you, below you, and within you. And the light of the earth rises through you, and the light of the heavens shines through you and is unified and aligned. Like the tree of life, your roots grow deeply into the earth and your branches reach to the heavens in balance within. And your spirit ignites and is revealed to you now. Divine compassion flows in on your breath and fills you with divine compassion for you. As your perceptions expand, the beautiful beings of the light are here and revealed to you. The enlightened ones of your heart, your beloved and sacred ones, the infinite ones and spiritual teams are here with you. The divine animal kingdom is here, and the spirit of the earth. The angels and the archangels are here, the ascended masters and our brothers and sisters in the light. The beautiful beings of the universal realms are here. And the light from above and the light from below aligns within you all the way from the heart of creation in the divine heart when your spirit became self-aware as the power of love became the light and the light became conscious and was created in the divine heart. And you became self-aware as unique, a beautiful spirit, and on the journeys of your soul. And you are here at this time in your soul's journey, in the journey of your divine spirit. And you belong here on the earth at this moment. And so, like the tree of life, your roots grow deeply into the earth, your branches reach to the heavens. And you imagine yourself under the great tree of life, standing under her beautiful canopy filled with life and abundance and beauty. The light from the highest heavens shining through the branches, great golden beams of light. And you receive the light. The divine animal kingdom is here standing in a circle, and they invite you to go into the center of their circle, the circle of life. And the beautiful beings of the light are here, and the great grove of trees, and the light from the heavens. And you stand in the center of the circle of life, and the light and the love of the divine animal kingdom sends their blessings to you and through you. And you share your blessings with them. Take a moment now and greet those beautiful beings here in the circle of light and life, and share your blessings with them and receive their blessings for you. And here in the circle of the divine animal kingdom, one or more steps forward to be here with you. And they invite you to take your place in the circle of life with them, and they join you right next to you. And you belong here. And when you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of the earth beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. And when you listen, you can hear the heartbeat of creation beating in the same rhythm as your own heart. The minerals of the earth are flowing through you. The elements of the earth and the colors of the earth flowing through each chakra. As you stabilize within you, align within you. The alignment of the planetary systems taking place in this solar system, aligning you with the highest frequencies of light force and life force, stable, strong, receptive. The light of gratitude flows in on your breath and fills all the gratitude within you. Breathe deeply and receive. And as you begin to bring your awareness back to the here and now, be aware that these beautiful beings are here with you. The divine animal kingdom is here with you in your daily life. And so your perception and your consciousness expands to the extraordinary reality of the world you live in. And the light fills your breath and awakens your authentic intellect, your remembering of you. So look inside and say thank you to you. Take this time to honor you and to love you for listening to you, caring about you. We say thank you to each other, all those who are here live and all who listen later. Our circle is always divinely ordered. And we come here to get today through the diversity of our worlds and our lives because we love greatly and care deeply. And so we join together, contributing wellness here into the world. And so we say thank you, well-being. And we say thank you to all the enlightened ones that are here. And we do align with the energies of the planets and the higher frequencies of them and training our life force, aligning with the shifts to be comfortable and clear. We say thank you to all the enlightened ones who join us, in the 12 heavens and all the Reiki energies. Thank you. And we say thank you to the teachers who come before us to bring us these ways. Since ancient times, the teachers have been teaching the students and the people how to call to the divine in the heavens, the divine within, and the divine of the earth, to live lives of well-beings. And we say thank you to the descendants, those who come after us. We are listening to those who came before, those who come after, and we are listening within and collectively here in the 21st century on the earth, in this cycle of the moon and of the sun and of the earth, at this time in our soul's journey, to be here right now, to belong here, part of the circle of life. So breathe deeply, open your heart and receive. Thank you. And so it is. Well, thank you, everyone. We always have to come back kind of fast. You don't, but we do, because we keep the recording going. So thank you all.
Oh, hi. Good. I think probably a lot has been said about this. Would like to bring up giving Reiki to a person for the very first time, a person who doesn't really know too much about it. Um, I remember when I was getting attuned, in those days it was called attuned, that we even had requests like don't have caffeine, don't have uh, alcohol, don't drink wine on the day of your attunement. In the olden days, you probably remember that well.
I do remember that
You
well.
remember
Yeah.
those injunctions from those days.
Mhm.
But as far as giving Reiki to a person in the new time, what I usually do is a few days before they see me, and I had somebody in my teacher organization that had a problem with her foot, and she didn't know anything about it. Um, I just normally say that, if they deal with a higher power or whatever they have, to sort of like request that this Reiki treatment will be to the benefit of them and all involved. So that's how I approach this situation as far as like a new Reiki person, so that they can sort of like comport themselves a few days in advance about it. Because I remember when I was attuned too, I had certain injunctions about how I should comport myself before I got my first Reiki attunement, the old days. But if if there's certain writings on it in the Reiki magazine or on your YouTubes or everything, I certainly would reference them. But of course, things migrate and evolve with time anyway, and new ideas always come up. So is what I do probably the best thing to do, or is it, Colleen, do you have any like additional ideas of how you do that? This was for a live Reiki treatment, by the way, that I did, not a virtual.
Right. Okay. Well, I think everyone is going to have their own way of doing that. So each person will have their languaging, the way they kind of want their clients to prepare. Some may not have them prepare at all, and just show up and do all the preparations live right then. I don't personally put any requirements um, on my clients, and here's why. I had a practitioner who had like some really serious preparations I had to do before my session, and actually at the time I was really sick. And so some of the preparations were beyond what I could actually physically accomplish. And so they were more of, that was more of a shamanic tradition than a Reiki tradition. Reiki doesn't seem to have those same kind of requirements ever. And so, Joe, I think if that is how that comes through for you and to share with your clientele, I love it. And, um, a lot of it is just feeling free for each person listening to say that the way that is true for them and the preparations they might share, in advance. We also call that client expectations. So in animal Reiki, we actually have kind of a whole list of client expectations that we share with the client before a session, because there's so much even that's different for working with animals than working with people. Working with people, there's a lot more that is kind of a standardized way that they can know how the session is going to work, the time and everything. So in addition to that, it may also be something that you have like a template email that you send to the people if you have a lot of clients, or just a personal email, if you're able, with both the client expectations, recommendations, so they know what to expect. And so I think that's really nice. I think also as a practitioner, taking the time, that time in advance to kind of have a sense of who you're working with during that week or during that time kind of puts you in just a little bit more of a space of an awareness that insight might come through for you as a practitioner or not. None of it is required. So there's a lot of right ways to do it. And I think that's mostly, what I would say about it for each person. And yet at the same time, sometimes people like a consistency of, hey, here's what I do. So I think I will answer another question to take at the next level to your question that you just asked, Joe. So once the client arrives, I do have a specific way that I like to set up the whole session. So what I like to do, and even if they are brand new, if they're brand new, then, I do tell them a little bit more of what to expect. But mostly, I go right into an invocation first. I let them know we'll do the invocation, then I'll have a conversation with you so you can share while you're here, and then I go into the third part of the session. And how that is timed, there's a certain level of efficiency that occurs by doing the invocation first. And your invocation can be whatever that is for you. So that could even just be, have them come in, sit down, and take a deep breath, and get everybody centered, get you centered, and then have the conversation. My invocations tend to be a little bit longer than that, but again, each person's way of however you get, the client there and ready is your way and the right way. But I always do that first. Then we have a conversation, and this conversation is going to wrap around 2 questions. And that can come through like organically spoken or sometimes very directly. What do you want to let go of today? And what do you want to bring in today? And let them take some time. That's why also when we do the invocation first, then ask those questions are going to come from a much more heart-centered place. People can go deeper with it from where they are in that moment. Oh, because the question is often different than what they expect. So, and it may come through in different language than what do you want to let go of. It may come through in the middle of the conversation, or they may share a lot with you. And then one of the things that you say to them is, well, what do you want to let go of today? And what do you want to bring in today? And let them go into that heart place, then go into the session. Also, I always, once they're on the table, I show them the hand positions that I'm going to use, give them a sense of, or ask them point blank, about their preferences for touch, that I can be above the body or on the body. and I show them pretty quickly what hand positions I typically use. I also let them know that I might use my breath. I might chant one of the Karuna symbols. Um, I give them a little bit of just knowing what to expect so they're not having to pay attention to what I might be doing while they're on the table, like letting them just go as deep as they possibly can go if they have some knowing of what's going to happen. I even redo that with clients I see commonly or often, just simply to just check in with them again, of checking with you on the hand positions. Do you have touch preferences today? Specific areas, that kind of thing. And then I do Biosen scanning, and then I do um, the session. I do typically use the standardized hand positions. I start there, and then if my intuition guides me differently, I'm definitely free to place my hands wherever I feel guided. And then close the session, and then most often the clients want to have a conversation, but I also let them know in advance, and then I repeat it at the end, that you may just want to stay in the place you're in and not have a lot of conversation. That happens commonly enough too. So, if they're in person, you certainly need to give them time to kind of get up off of the table, recenter before they drive. I always offer water. You're typically going to need to use the bathroom, maybe even have like a little packet of a to-go snack, they can take with them, something like that, so they're driving. And then also I do the same thing for online clients. So I have my I tell them the client expectations. I still do the invocation first, have the conversation next, and then I go into the next part of the session, um, in the same order. The way I'm going to define what I'm doing in the client expectations has a little bit different, like here's how this is going to work. I let them know this is what to expect. So anyway, but otherwise it's the same as in person.
Can I make a comment? In this particular, I'm not consistently doing Reiki, as a profession. I do it more occasionally. So what I did in this instance too is, like, a half hour before she came, she hurt her foot on a stairway and was expecting an X-ray result. So she came to me, and so what I personally did a half hour before she came is I lit a candle and burned some incense and sort of tried to get into a higher space with myself before I did the treatment as well. So that's what I did for myself, before I did the treatment. And of course, and in this case, this wasn't just a person who wanted to get all of the hand positions. I concentrated having my hand on her foot the whole time. Okay, it was that one of those kind of sessions. So, but I certainly will take your advice if I want a person who wants some more overall Reiki treatment, to maybe do what you say about invocations and things. I didn't consider that. That's kind of interesting. But so thank you very much.
It's a game changer. I recommend it
Mm-hmm.
for anybody, even if they are a regular client or you're going to focus on one thing. And again, the invocation can be as easy as and generic as, just breathe deeply, begin to relax from the top of your head and go down their body. Just anything to bring them in from the busyness of arriving in the session. It changes your energy too, because typically I'm busy before I sit down for a session. And so I sit down and, I need to bring the energy in also. And then it brings us together. It's why even like in this Q&A, we do the invocation first, because now Reiki's flowing through and the circle is is, brought together and the topics just take a deeper level. And also, if you don't have the time to do that and you don't want to do that, absolutely everyone, that is not a should, that is a preference. So everybody, you always get to do your practice your way in those ways. But I will tell you from years of experience when I switched from doing the invocation after we had the conversation, huge difference in just the ability to go deeper in the conversation, to get to the intention, to get to, even if like it's, yeah, I injured my foot, there's still another intention in there.
Well, she was impressed with the heat at any rate.
Yeah, yeah. But again, sometimes you also have to be pretty, really generic with it all if you're working with somebody who's going to go, what are you talking about? So always keep that in mind, any of you. And if you're in a medical setting, then that's different too. You're just going to give Reiki and, so always time, place, and manner, I guess would be the way to say it. Always paying attention to who your client is, why they're there. And, as we always say, first rule of Reiki is never scare the client. So adapting the things that you do to them as well. And then a lot of times what you find out is they're like, oh, good, somebody who talks that way, and I'm like so intrigued and curious now. So, but definitely everybody do it your way.
And I think we have Magda who has a question about an invocation.
Okay.
Do you want to unmute?
Yeah, it was pretty much already answered, Colin, thank you. But I had exactly this question about if it's a person who is like totally with no background and kind of, but I think that then I will feel it and maybe just go with the breathing and less less details. So thank you.
Find the words that are a match for you. And always remember, you get to be comfortable as the practitioner in how you say things and explain things, what you say and share, and what you don't. So we are never required to go beyond what we feel is the right way for the person we're working with. We do have our invocation booklet on our website that we did attempt to do some of the invocation that's short and with a language that is maybe comfortable for people. So working with the power of love, for instance, you could say that differently, but you could say the energy of love fills your breath. That is the power symbol. So when we are using those terms, those are the language or the words that we are assigning to the energy that is coming through from Reiki in those. And so the mental emotional symbol is the divine mind, and the distance symbol is the divine heart. The Usui master symbol, DKM, is the light of the earth and the light of the heavens shining through you. And because we work with holy fire, as we are inviting your spirit to ignite, that's us calling that energy in. Working with the tree of life is the animal Reiki energy, and the divine compassion is what I use to invite the Karuna energies in. All of that can be done your way, your language, short, sweet, however it works for you. But the examples in the invocation booklet can give you an idea of how you would do the same thing. And the booklet explains that. So we have a section on how to create your own because there's a particular way that you're doing it. And also, if it's a person let's say they are entirely science-based and you need to use a completely different language, you can always go into the words mindfulness is another term that is really helpful. We are going to now do some breathing, bring us together with mindfulness, and just breathe in, knowing the Reiki energies will work the way they work for that person in their perception and in their comfort zone. So finding the languages, and that's something that actually, it reminds me, we did some work on elevator pitches, but just to get different ideas of languaging that you can use with different people that you might be working with. Again, if you're in a medical setting, it's all about reducing stress, mindfulness, um, well-being, wellness. Those are all the terms you might use in those settings. For my work in particular, Robin, most of us, because most of the people that are going to come to us have a sense that it is going to be, have a shamanic perspective and that kind of a tone to it. And at the same time, always knowing that, like, I'm totally aware that I like my belief system around what all these energies are, but I'm also open to them being many different things through many different belief systems. I just happen to like the way I perceive them. And so for me, if I can engage with all of this, what is this world? What is the soul? What are the divine realms? What is the earth? What's the universe? All of those things. I'm completely open to all of the different definitions of it for the people. And that is true of Reiki energy. One of the reasons I think Reiki energy is really making its way through integrative medicines and all the different populations of people, the different religions and spiritual paths, because it really is trying to evolve us into that next level of inner truth, personal truth, how we all relate to it, and without the right and wrong. It's definitely evolving to the many right ways of it. And so I actually think that's why Reiki has come in the way it has, not only in the past 100 years, but really in the last 20 years, the evolution of our understanding of the Reiki energy and it helping us to evolve to its possibilities. And my perception of it, I think that's one of the big parts of its energy is to take us into that next level of cooperation. We've been working with a lot of the different Reiki lineages around the world through our podcast and having them as guests. And what we really see is how much we all love being community through the different lineages, the different ways of doing things, thinking about it all, that we're so glad to have the opportunity to continue to create global community through all the different right ways to practice Reiki and all the different perceptions of what it is. Okay.
Okay, I can pull a question off our email here.
Okay.
Do I need particular training before I take a Reiki class?
Say that again.
Do I need a particular training before I take a Reiki class?
No. In fact, it's fascinating to me all the time how many people will come to a Reiki class never having had a Reiki session or really any other kind of perception of their own spirituality, but somewhere they saw the word or heard the word and it compels them. It's like there's an inner calling that says, hey, go find it, it's over here. and they show up in class with never having had, like, it's their Reiki 1 is their first experience with the Reiki energy. And so that is very common. We just got back from the Sedona Reiki retreat, and it was over Labor Day, which, by the way, we have every year. It was fabulous again, but it was amazing. There were not quite a few, I would say 4 people there that had never had a Reiki session or any Reiki training, and even one of them flew from New York and came and had never had any experience with Reiki, just came to the retreat and loved it. They fit right in because there's that, it's like a magnetic calling or attraction that, people find their way. And I love it because I always think of their Reiki story, later somewhere they're going to share, like, how did I get into Reiki? And that will be their story. Like, well, I heard the word and I flew across the country and went to a Reiki retreat. So, absolutely. And then you have people who come into Reiki with many years of other modalities that they have studied and been involved with, or many different modalities. And what I've seen with that is the Reiki energy, because it will complement other modalities. Like you can almost always integrate them as well, as long as it's okay with the other modality, that they can come in and Reiki will bring it all together, like it gives it kind of a unified practice that they can integrate their other modalities in with Reiki too. So I see everything from like highly experienced people in other modalities, and then also people who somewhere heard the word and show up and have never had a session. Okay, I have one more thing to say about it. As always. And here's the whole scoop with it and why that is available and true and also okay. Because Reiki is given to us through an attunement. We are connected to the energy. So rather than learning how to develop the connection with the energy, the attunement gives us that connection. The connection gives us the ability to actually facilitate or channel that Reiki energy in its pure form. So the attunement gives us the ability, like the very first day of Reiki, someone can give Reiki to themselves and to, say, somebody in their home or somebody else, a friend, and can immediately start practicing Reiki, because it's always the energy doing the work. It will always come through you in the purity of the energy because of the attunement. And we as practitioners, it's not dependent on our spiritual knowledge or our intellectual knowledge of the energy for it to do what it does. It knows how to do what it does, and it's not dependent on us knowing how it does what it does, because that I still don't know everything it does, and I've been doing it, a lifetime now. And so the attunement makes it possible for you to learn it. And in fact, you can read the manuals about it and everything else and get like some of the basics, the words we use, but you still are going to experience the energy, and the Reiki is what will ultimately teach you about your path, how it's all, what meaning is it within you, like how does it benefit you, how does it work with you in your daily life, your way. Okay, I think I'm complete with that. Thank you.
Okay, I think Lorraine has a question.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Lorraine.
yeah, hi. I have a question. It was put to me by one of my students, and I've never experienced this myself, but maybe you have, in Karuna Reiki with the Gnosa symbol.
Mhm.
And she said she was working on the heart chakra of a client. And all of a sudden, well, in her words, she said it was a spinning a figure eight or infinity symbol and in the center of it, and she was wondering what the meaning was. And I had gone back to my books because I personally haven't experienced this, but I was reading I studied Karuna Ki before I took my registered Holy Fire Karuna Reiki classes, and they talked in there. They mentioned that Gnosa links you more strongly with the higher self and brings consciousness into the physical body and increases awareness of dimensional levels of self. It can create a spinning Merkaba, which I presume is what she was seeing, at the heart center, uplifting consciousness. Um, and it's through Gnosa that we develop the oneness with the compassion of God. And I was just wondering if anyone else has experienced that. Strange that my student experienced it and I haven't. I guess I'm a better teacher than I am worker. But yes, I just wondered, have you experienced that, or do you know anyone who has?
Well, I love that definition of it.
I do
Wow.
too. I do too.
Where did you find that?
That was when I took Karuna Ki. That was their definition.
Their
Of,
definition, really good. Well, always it's again, there's going to be perceptions for the client and what it means for them, for the practitioner, what it means for them. And the first place is to ask Reiki, what was that? And that's part of as we develop our intuition and we learn to dialogue with the energy and ask those questions, in the moment, like, show me more about what this is, which
hmm
is what we teach in our next step classes. Like, how do you observe it and know what you're observing?
Yeah.
The good part is it's not required that
No,
what it's
no.
doing for it to do what it does.
But she was just
Anytime we have any of these explanations about it, it's always because it has shown us what it's doing, not because what we think is making it do it. So
right,
I know you
right.
know that, I
But
know.
we are curious people,
Yeah.
and
So I love that definition.
yeah, actually, it was,
Again, it's so personal with a practitioner and a client, but my first thought with it, for me, right now, what Gnosa, I am very dialed in with Gnosa right now. Like, it
yeah,
is one of the primary symbols.
oh,
I
very much.
find that they work with you differently all different times. And
Yeah,
and right now, Gnosa,
world situation right now, I think,
what's that?
in possibly in the world situation right now, especially.
Well, I think it's moving through even a meta perspective of that, like even the next level from it,
hmm
because it's bringing us back to our authentic intellect at a time we are actually open to understanding that we have lost a lot of our
Yeah,
authentic intellect, which is intuition, imagination, inner knowing, inner authority, our ability to create and have ideas that are different than our culturally created self, the collective that we are in the middle of at this time in our soul's history.
yeah,
Um, and so, specifically, I'm aware of it. So, in the invocation, when I invite that divine mind, that includes Gnosa for me. It's both the mental emotional symbol, SHK, and
hmm
Gnosa coming through, and there's a very specific intention of us aligning the divine mind, head mind, heart mind, gut mind, and earth mind. And so that's what I hear is Gnosa came in for that heart chakra to bring it into alignment.
Yeah.
And Spirit keeps talking about it in every session I've been doing, like it's come in with how important that alignment is right now. And it's going whole body. And so Gnosa to me is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. She just said, "Mom, have you?" Because it was my youngest daughter. She's a naturopathic doctor as well as a Reiki master and so on. But she works with a lot of people, so she combines everything and acupuncture and the whole bit. And yes, she said, "Have you ever experienced this?" And I said, "No, but I'm going to look into it more." So I appreciate your.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and surely invite her to listen around it.
Yeah.
Like keep asking that question and when she's doing other things and some of these things are so fun to like really keep asking like what did that mean?
Yeah.
Show me
Yeah.
and the philosophy of it too.
She said the same client also, whenever she works on her crown chakra, uh, uh, it has this major lotus flower with many, many, many petals, and yeah, so it's
Mm.
different, But thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorraine. I love it.
Yes. Okay. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Bye
Oh,
bye.
you're welcome.
Okay.
I think Margaret Mary has a couple things to add to that.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you, Colleen?
Oh, I'm really good. Thank you. And you too.
No.
Traveling home yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I was at Sedona with Colleen and Robin, and I am one of those individuals who had never had Reiki prior to becoming attuned. It was the summer of 2020, and COVID was really loud, and I was living out of my vehicle in Philadelphia due to the situation and the circumstances, and I just had to find. I knew there was an answer, I just didn't know what it was. So I began looking online and found Reiki.org and registered. And not being familiar, what I saw was the first available course I could register for was in October. So it's July, I registered and waited. And it really does begin when you register. The energy knows that you're a yes. And a lot of things changed for me through that process. The weekend after I took Reiki 1 and 2, a client of mine let me know that she had a house that was sitting empty and was I interested. This was a government contracting client. And it was like, oh, wow. So, I got to not live in my car and move into a house, about 7, 8, 9 days later. And when I was at the International Center for Retreat in Sedona this weekend, I forget which one it was, but all of a sudden I felt this energy over my heart spinning the way that you had shared, Lorraine. And I was like, wow, how did she know? And because that was the first time I experienced it. There have been times where I've experienced it over my whole body. And, it was really, I was left very curious and trying to figure it out and not knowing that, just a few short days later, I'd be sitting here listening, going, oh, that's what that was. Thank you. Okay, no problem. So, each of us has our own path, and Reiki works with us the way that Reiki works with us. And, this is my words and mine alone. I submit and surrender to Reiki moment by moment. I went out to Sedona to take the kid Reiki course because Reiki told me to, and I balked authentically. It's like, no, I don't have time. I don't have the money, all the usual complaints. And it just said to go. So I made my flight one way out, took it. There were times where they were challenging getting transportation, ground transportation and all of that. But I got out there and I thought, oh, Wednesday night when the course is over, I'm just going to get on my broom and come back. And that didn't happen. And, it needed to integrate with me, this new energy. And it was really powerful. And Kid Reiki is not just about teaching children Reiki or kids Reiki. It's about healing our inner child. And if you think that is not for you, oh, I'm never going to teach kids, teach yourself and teach yourself well, as John Lennon put it. So I rested for like 30 hours, and somewhere in there Reiki said get up and register for the retreat, and I was like, I don't want to, I'm tired, I'm sore, because Sedona has really intense energies, and I was very altered, and in a very pleasant way and a very positive way, and it was just like, no, get up. And so like the night before, I was like, okay, fine, I'll register. And I registered, still thinking that I was just going to get on a plane and go back. And, it was a very small affair compared to the other ones that I've been to. And it was, the presenters were impeccable, completely on point, very knowledgeable. And if you were fortunate enough to attend in person or online, they do a really great job with the recordings, and you always have that information that you can refer back to. So it was really positive. And, because I'm used to that big Gnosa energy over me, when it got small and was focused on my heart energy center, I was just very, very curious about it, and of course very altered. So that's what there is to acknowledge about what Lorraine was sharing and asking about, and my personal experience, just mine, not anybody else's.
Oh, thank you, Margaret Mary. Yeah, it was really good to see you there. I'm glad you were there.
Thank you.
Straight from the heart.
From the heart.
Yeah.
Okay, another question here. What's the difference between intuition and imagination when practicing Reiki?
Well, they go together. Imagination, I think, is actually first. And this is just my perception of it. And because I've asked this exact question pretty commonly, and, we teach this consistently. In fact, for anybody listening to this on the podcast, we are teaching intuition all month long. We have 5 parts of it that we're teaching about intuition this month. So anyway, imagination, I think, is, we have our divine imagination, our connection to our intellect through our imagination, and then our intuition is more about how we navigate applying it. I'm kind of channeling this right now and hearing what I'm saying. Everything starts in the imagination. Every creation, all creativity, curiosity, everything starts. It's, to me, the first place of our intellect. And then intuition is a very human intellect, but it's also, that gut knowing. And to me, the gut knowing also has our soul's knowledge. So the things that we bring into this world with us, I find it in the gut brain. So the gut brain, it's in all of it. It's a whole body, but I feel like it's like when I'm working with the soul's knowledge with clients or myself, I really find that that gut area, then moves into the heart, the human brain. And so our soul's knowledge comes with us in our imagination. It applies through our intuition and then also instincts. So I see all three of those as human intellect, and our imagination is where everything starts. I feel like, and I have seen this in my work with my clients, that the imagination is one of the biggest injuries in humanity. Dismissing the imagination for the ultimate power, or the ultimate's not quite the word, really dismissing the fullness and power of the imagination has really created a lot of blocks within many of us. And that imagination is something that people with artistic abilities or creative abilities, they have an imagination. And then also, people who are more of a left brain analytical mind have less of an imagination, which is actually not true. Their imagination, we access it differently. So if a person is a mathematician, they are accessing those formulas and how that works in the, in the creation of the universe through imagination, equally as a person who is painting or writing a novel or, any of those things. Probably one of the main things we hear in our next step classes, because we teach this so much, is how to understand when you are making it up and when you're not making it up. And you do know the difference. Like you can really identify within yourself when you are using your imagination to make things up with, but also the times when, your imagination is the doorway to known and unknown things in your consciousness. So then your intuition is going to apply it. Your intuition is going to be the human side of navigating through daily life to bring it all together, to be able to access your imagination, to access your sensory perceptions, to be able to, know what's happening around you in any given moment. It is a source of guidance, that there is your personal intuition, your divine intuition, and then your connection with your intuition to guidance from, say, other sources. Sometimes those sources are the enlightened realms, and sometimes they're the practical, real world guidance that you need from a mentor or, some other knowledge base that you need. And then instincts to me are another one that have been really underdeveloped in our culture. And I remember as a child that there was the big debate about whether human beings had instincts or instincts were just the realm of animals. And so you can hear the separation in that. You can hear the creation of a belief system that we are different than the earth realm. We're outside of that earth realm, that we are separate from it. When in truth, we are a part of the circle of life, and the circle of life needs imagination, instincts, and intuition to live here on this earth and to navigate this realm. So to me, they are all very human qualities. I think imagination, though, is a really existing frequency, and I find it when we do the Explore the 12 Heavens classes, and we are lifting into the higher dimensions of the spiritual realms. They are working with imagination, like listening to us and then listening in creation to how do we bring what we need through the realms and into the earth and make it physical, that evolution that we're doing. And one of the places that I've really seen that is in the 11th heaven, that there is a communication with the spiritual beings of the 11th heaven. And they are accessing, like, from the creation realms, what is needed to help with this communication from us on the earth. And so I see that in the big picture, like they're listening on the collective and the meta picture of that, and then also all the way to the individual. So anyway, sometimes I think, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Did I just say all that out loud?
I understand. And this is kind of along the same lines. Let me just get to it. How can a practitioner tell if intuitive guidance should be shared with a client?
Well, the first step with that is you are never responsible to share what you feel like you shouldn't share. Always trust that Reiki will find a way to share it with the person. If it is going to scare the person, I would let Reiki handle it. If it is a medical concern, I would at the most ever say, you know, be a great time to have a physical and get a checkup, something along those lines, unless you're qualified to do other types of medical intuition or you are a physician able to say those things. Even the physicians that I know will say that they would not probably cross the two in a Reiki session. So I personally do not have the skill set or training to give people specifics about mental health diagnoses or physical. I definitely stay within the scope of my practice with anything that I would share. I'm not a counselor, so I'm also very careful with, what I share is within the scope of my practice, my skill set, and what is appropriate for me to share. The next thing that happens is, when I first started sharing, and again, in that place of, am I just making this stuff up? Because sometimes, as you know, I mean, it can be so fantastical. The things that can show up intuitively or psychically or telepathically in a Reiki session. And we see it on day one of Reiki 1. That's why we really created the next step classes, because we were seeing that people were having these intuitive impressions but didn't have the skill to know what they were, how to share, if they share, and then how to develop a greater skill and ability to observe intuitively what Reiki is sharing. And yes, it is accessed through your imagination. Your imagination is a doorway. You're not making it up, because most of the time I'd be like, if I made that up, I wouldn't even know how to make it up. Like I wouldn't have that thought on a conscious level. And I always say I would be a world famous novelist if I could make things up like that and write it down. So you get to where you understand, and what we call that is our bright mind and our ordinary mind. And you know when you're in one and when you're in the other. I know when I am in my ordinary mind, if what is coming through is my opinion or advice, maybe even unsolicited advice or advice that's outside of my skill set as a Reiki practitioner, then I know, okay, wait, I'm going to really listen around this if I'm going to share. Sometimes I am guided to share it, and sometimes, and when that, I had that happen this morning. I had it happen where I am guided to share with you from my own experience this answer to your question. But I am clear that I have moved, I'm listening with Reiki, and I have also been clear that this is coming from me. It's not coming from, well, it is coming from a higher level of consciousness through me, but it isn't like, spirit channeling through me. So there's a difference. And so I'll say that if it is coming from me, and I'm specific about that. I've had things where I was telling like what I was seeing in the session or experiencing in the session. I'm like, I am not sharing that. I'm just, no way am I going to say that to this person. And I've even had Reiki come in and say it, just go do it. It's okay, say it. I'm like, I'm not doing it. So sometimes I have tiptoed in and said what I'm uncomfortable saying when I get told, say it. And other times I'm like, I'm the person on the ground. I know this situation. I am not saying it. So that's the other piece to know. You are always a part of the team. And even though you receive divine guidance or external source of guidance, you are a person on the team. Your voice matters. Your experience of being the human being in the circle is part of it. So if you think of a medical team, every single person on that team has a different role, and each person needs to have a voice for their role. It's the same thing with spiritual work. We are the person in the middle. We're the practitioner, we're the human being. We are in the reality of the circumstance with this client. And so we share what is appropriate and okay with us. And then many times I've shared when I've been like, oh, I'm going to say it. And it's so uncomfortable because I know I've hit that weirdometer, like it's gone way up into the high marks of how weird is this? And I'm going to be like so uncomfortable. And I remember some of the years at the beginning of that happening and being like, okay, I'm going to say it. And I will tell you, that's always relevant. It's always relevant. Even if the person has a completely no idea, it can be like, yeah, this is still relevant. So share what is comfortable to you and never feel like you have to share if it is uncomfortable and you think you shouldn't, and stay within the scope of your practice. That's everything I just said in a few words.
Okay, let's see here. What's the difference between Reiki level 1 and 2, master training, and Karuna? And what do they mean?
Such a great question. So each level of Reiki is introducing you to higher levels of the frequencies of Reiki energy. So giving your body the time to adapt. And then each level also has the specific training of how are you connecting to the energy, what the energy is, what are the techniques to use, and what is the information. So it's always more components than, it's like you're learning the Reiki energy and gaining that integration into your system with the energy, and then all the training that goes with that. So Reiki energy, understanding Reiki is the energy. It is as ancient as the earth. It's life force energy. It has been accessed many different ways through many different languages throughout the history of humanity. In this version of Reiki, Usui Sensei received the energy, and then he started to develop tools and techniques and symbols so that he could teach it and share it. His first guidance and decision was that he would share Reiki with the world and wanted it to spread throughout the world in all the ways that it could. So when he learned Reiki, or when he received the Reiki energy, he had to learn how to, use it to treat people. Then he had to learn how to teach others how to treat people, because it became so wildly popular within 4 years of his life with the energy. So each level has a different level of both the energy and the knowledge base, with the system of tools and techniques that started in development with Usui. So Reiki 1 is the very first attunement to the Reiki energy. And the attunement is given to you through the teacher who has been trained at higher levels to give those attunements. The Reiki energy connects with the person in Reiki 1 for the very first time, probably other times in their life in different ways. And then as that energy is connected to you through the attunement, then in that class, you need to know something about the energy. What is it? Where does it come from? What is the history of it? And then what are the techniques to use it? So in Reiki 1, typically you are learning mostly about what it is, why it is, some of its history, some of the things you need to know, and then how to give yourself Reiki. So in Reiki 1, we begin teaching you about your intuition, your inner guidance, and then the practical steps of hand positions to give yourself Reiki and to understand that and begin practicing on self. Reiki 1 does give you the connection to the Reiki so that you can immediately give Reiki to someone else also. And then on Reiki 2, many people teach these, one at a time, and many teach them back to back. We teach Reiki 1 and 2 back to back. So Reiki 1 is one day and Reiki 2 is the next day. In Reiki 2, you are now receiving the next level of attunement. So it's increasing the energy within your body, the life force, and the understanding that, it's a very physical feeling. Like it's not just something that is kind of sort of there, like it's there. And so in Reiki 2, now you are in training or activating the next levels of the Reiki energy within you, the energy you're able to receive through that attunement, and the expansion that comes with it. And the expansion can be perceived as expanded consciousness, expanded spirituality, expanded inner truth, inner knowing. Then you receive the Reiki symbols. Now, different lineages can have different versions of this, but if you are following along the Usui lineage, then in Reiki 2, you receive the power symbol, the mental emotional symbol, and the distance symbol. And so you receive the attunements to them. You learn some of what they are. It's a lifetime of learning what they are, and you eventually learn from them more than the words we use around it. And then you learn more about your intuition, some of the other tools that you have that you may use for Reiki, some of the techniques that you might use, like you can deliver Reiki with your breath, you can deliver Reiki with your eyes. Those are the Japanese Reiki techniques. You learn more about the hand positions for self and others and what is called Biosen scanning and how to intuitively sense where your hands go. So in this lineage, we teach a combination of intuitive guidance and standardized guidance. And then you would have practice time so that you can feel as if you know enough about what you're doing to start practicing on your own. Reiki is so experiential that you are going to learn the most through that practice. So then it's recommended that you wait somewhere in the 6-month mark to integrate everything you learn in Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, practicing on self. If you have others you can practice with. Oh, the other one with Reiki 2 is you learn distance Reiki. So now you can send Reiki over time and space, into the past, into the future, into the right now, for yourself, for others, for world events. So that's Reiki 2. Then in the next 6 months, you try to integrate that, practice it. And then the next level, at least in the lineage that we teach, which is the Usui Holy Fire 3 World Peace Reiki. This still applies to other lineages, just in a little bit different traditions and techniques and ways of practice. So then typically the next level is what we call Reiki Master. In this lineage, you receive 2 more symbols in that. One is the Usui Master symbol, and one is the Holy Fire Master symbol. Again, that next level of expansion, the next level of understanding. What do each of those symbols do? What is their energy? And then in addition, there are more techniques that you learn to both teach Reiki to others, share Reiki with others, and also give Reiki sessions, whether that is on a personal level or a professional level. And then about 6 months after you've integrated that, that's when you would take the advanced level of Karuna Reiki. So Karuna Reiki has another 8 symbols, and Holy Fire is the master symbol of this version of it. There is also another Karuna Reiki that is from the original traditional Karuna Reiki from back in the 1990s that has 4 master symbols through the Usui Tibetan lineage. So some of this depends on the lineage that you're working within and those particular traditions. But here's the main understanding. Reiki is the energy. All of the classes and the levels and the techniques are how we as human beings learn to receive the energy, connect to it, receive it, and deliver it to ourselves or to others. And then how do we teach it or share this ability with others? So the techniques vary Lineages were developed through over the past 100 years from different people teaching, following their guidance, developing the techniques that they use. Some people will say they have the kind of original, traditional way that Usui taught. Some of the books that we read about the ways that we practiced back then, we don't really see anybody in at this time that is actually teaching exactly as Usui taught. Even Dento Reiki, the direct lineage of the Usui Reiki Ryoho Gakkai, calls it Dento Reiki because that is to indicate that it is different than how Usui taught. So there are many different lineages, and each lineage is going to have some common traditions that they practice. Like it's pretty common, the symbols that I just mentioned in Reiki 1 and 2 and the Usui Master Symbol, but they may have different ways that you practice it, different methods of it. Like when I first learned Reiki, those hand positions were absolute. Like you had to have your hands over the eyes, then the ears, the top of the head, back of the head, and going down in a particular order. And each one was for 3 minutes. Intuition was not part of it until the 2000s, when through the evidence-based history of Reiki, we found out that Usui actually practiced a very intuitive style of hand placements through what we call Biosen scanning. So not all Reiki lineages teach the exact same thing, and then many of us teach very common things. In my perspective, they all work, and each person is guided to the lineage that is a match for them. And so just having that understanding, tools and techniques are one part of it. The lineage usually is the one developing those tools and techniques, and then the Reiki energy is the energy.
Okay. Well, I actually have one that comes up a lot for me for Colleen, is when a person is teaching Reiki 1 and 2 and they order a manual for their student, the symbols are not in that manual. So
Right.
how do they get the students the symbol?
Well,
Symbols.
Wherever they received the symbols in the master, they should have received the symbols they would give their students in their master class.
I think it's more of a physical, like how do you mail them to them? Do you email them the symbols for class?
Well, I think that'll be individual per teacher. We send them digitally. We send in our emails prior to class, we send the symbols digitally. They can print them out or have them digitally. And then also, I have recorded a how to draw them video that we send along with them. Just because then when we get to class, they've had some practice time. At the same time, some people arrive in class because they sign up last minute and have had no exposure to the symbols at all, and that's still okay. So just so you know, if you are teaching and somebody doesn't get the symbols till the day of class, through what you share, either physically if you're in person and giving them a handout, or if you are online and you're screen sharing the symbols and they receive them digitally.
Okay, there was a DM'd question about the stories examples of clairsalience and clairgustance. So I had mentioned these yesterday in the distance Reiki share, and somebody was asking me to explain because we didn't really have time then. So somebody might have heard these stories before, but we are in the distance Reiki share. We are talking about intuition and how Reiki helps to develop this. within us, and we can use skills to develop it. So it's a whole long thing. We're going to be covering it for the month of September in our distance Reiki share, and we publish those. Those are the Thursday episodes that we release on YouTube and on the podcast. So yesterday I was talking about the Clair Senses, and those are the different ways that our intuition manifests for us. So whether that is clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing. We have 9 of them. So clear knowing, clear thinking, clear empathy, clear feeling, clear touching, and then clear salience and clear gustance are the 2 that she is asking, or this person is asking about. And clear salience is clear smelling, and clear gustance is clear tasting. So, and I brought those up because I would say for the most part, our main ways of our intuition developing, whether that's our impressions in Reiki or whether that is our actual everyday waking life, I would say probably manifest as the other ones as a more dominant clair sense. I know for me, my clair senses, it's that I'm a clair cognizance, which is clear knowing, and clair intellect, which is clear thinking. Those are my 2 kind of main ones. However, I have more. Colleen's is clairvoyance, where she can do clear seeing. So that's just a little background of what this question is referring to. When we're talking, and so what I talked about is in my waking life, one of my my senses is clairsalience. So that actually is an intuitive sense for me. It is my sense of smell. And so the few experiences that I've had are with my sense of smell is it has actually been my sense of smell that has been able to avoid 2 house fires. So in my house, there was this one spot on my stair that goes from my kitchen to my living room. There's only 2 stairs, and one spot on this stair, I was able to smell smoke, and it was late at night. And I was like, I would go into the kitchen and I couldn't smell it. I would go down into the living room and I couldn't smell it, except for this one spot on the stair. And we checked everywhere in our house, and there was no place where the smoke was stronger or anything. So we go outside, I go outside and I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, I smell it. It's late at night. And I look over to the neighbors and their chimney is on fire. They're having a chimney fire and they're asleep. So, I go and knock on the door and tell them that their chimney's on fire, and it was bad enough that they couldn't extinguish it themselves. They had to have the fire department come, and it was really a disaster avoided, and they had had a new baby at the time too. So it was a disaster avoided, and my husband couldn't smell it even when he was on the stair. And I had a similar thing happen in our house, that I could smell a wire shortage that was happening in our water heater. And I could smell it in certain parts, and it was a pretty unique smell. And I'm like, okay, I'm smelling this. And we opened up our water heater panel, and it was like completely black from this wire short. And, it was, I would say just short of like smoking. And it was going to be a fire. So that was another time. And then the one I was talking about yesterday, it's a little, it's not gruesome. That's an exaggeration of the word, but it's not like a pretty story. Before we left for Sedona, I kept telling Sean, I'm like, I'm smelling something. Like, I thought that, so I live in an older house and there's gaps in the walls, and mice can get in the house. And we recently had a squirrel get in or a chipmunk get in the house. And so I had thought something had, maybe died under the floors or in the walls or something like that. Growing up on the farm in the country, that happened enough. Like, it's not an unfamiliar smell, but it would only like kind of come and go. And I'm like, what is this smell? And my husband couldn't smell it. I'm like, I'm telling you, there's something. So we were kind of checking to see if there was something that we could find with it. Well, it turns out while I was in Sedona, my husband calls me and he's like, so our freezer got unplugged when the plumber was here, and it had been unplugged for about a week. And that was the smell that I was smelling, which was in the basement, and I was smelling it again in a certain spot in the house, and nobody else could smell it. I'm like, gosh, I know I'm not going crazy here. Like, what is happening? Is this like a gas, or, do we have a gas leak? Like things like that, that we were trying to figure this out. It never occurred to me to check the freezer. Had I listened to it a little bit more, I would have done a more thorough examination, but because I kind of chalked it up to maybe something had gotten into the walls, that's what I thought I should have. And here's that, when we're talking about our Clair senses, here's that, like, knowing in retrospect that I should have known. My sense of smell was telling me something. I could smell it. Nobody else could. I should have done all of the proper checks with it all. So now I know in the future, if that happens again, I definitely will be checking my house. So, and had I done that, it would have probably been less of a loss of what happened in the freezer and the loss of the food that we had in the freezer. And so that was the one that just happened recently. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, and talking about it in the idea of like, oh yeah, my sense of smell is a walking instinct, and it is a Clair sense for sure. And I know that I can smell better than most of the people around me, but it was also something that I think it's like I'm noticing now that it's not just about that physical sense. There's an intuitive aspect to it. There's an intuitive impression around it. When we're talking about it from a maybe more traditional aspect of when clairsalience or clairgustance can be a clair sense. So we're all kind of like, oh, okay. So let's talk about it from a prettier standpoint of like when you might get a whiff of your grandmother's perfume, and there's no reason there should be your grandmother's perfume that you are smelling. Like that's not like somebody around you is wearing it, or even if somebody around you is wearing it, to me, that is an aspect of an intuitive impression. But a lot of times it can come out of the blue where you can have that smell happen for you, and it's an intuitive impression because there's like nobody around, or maybe her favorite flower and there's the flowers not around. And then with the gustance, it would be kind of the same thing, where you're tasting something out of the blue. And this isn't really one for me, but I know people who have this. You're tasting something out of the blue, or maybe you can have a heightened sense of taste. That's why they've always had food tasters, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. I wonder also now, thinking about it, if there's an ancestral or a past life component to this. Because they always had like royal tasters, right? That you tasted the food. And traditionally, a lot of times those people would have a heightened sense of taste or a heightened sense of smell. So I'm just kind of like connecting those dots, because that wouldn't be something that would be out of the ordinary for my lineage, that would maybe be a possibility within my ancestral history, and where my ancestral history came from. So, or what it was, that it might be somebody like that. So anyway, so those are the clairgustance, the clairsalience. Those are the experiences that I've had. I've also, because my grandma had a very irreverent sense of humor, both Colleen and I have had smelled. She was a lifelong smoker. We didn't get to smell the perfume. Instead, we get to smell the cigarette smoke when there's no cigarette smoke around. So thanks, Grandma. And that's happened to both of us with it. And so that's another funny one. So those are the kinds of things that you can experience with it. But now, yeah, Danny said same for her. But now that I know that my sense of smell is and kind of in the same way of like a dog's sense of smell is also, it's not just a sense, it's also part of their intuition, right? They can smell disease, they can smell cancer, they can smell, they use all sorts of things. And because animals' olfactory systems are also a part of their empathic systems. It is a part, it's not just a sense, it is a part of their intuition. And now that I've had enough experiences in my waking life, it doesn't happen too much for me in sessions. I've had it happen, but it is an intuitive sense in my waking life. And now that I've had it enough, I know now not to ignore it, because I know that there is something that and I have it open when I'm needing it open. So even if I'm walking down the street, and it hits me even in a different way, all of those kinds of things, I now use it as a part of my intuition. And so those are the examples, and that's kind of what we're meaning with those few really physical examples. All right. Colleen, anything you want to add?
I think that sounded great.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, again, we're going to be talking about all of this in depth all month. Really, we talk about it all the time, more than just this month, but we're going through really specific, more in-depth information about it.
Okay. Danny, is there anything else? No. All right. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say I got all my questions answered that I had this morning.
Well, so then I think we will go ahead and wrap up. I came in right at the end for my sense of smell. You're welcome. And I'm just going to make sure I see one more chat here. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody who is here live and those that are listening later. We, of course, as always, really appreciate all that you are here for us and everything else. And Colleen and Danny, of course, thank you so much. And we will catch you on the next one.